Guys, 10.19, we're almost done with the array list. In fact, this actually has nothing to do with array lists, so it's like, okay, why are we doing this in this exercise? But it's fine. We're doing it in chapter 10. So in chapter 10, I'm clicking on the related links, and it's going to give us something that looks like this. It's just a class. You can click on it yourself. We have everything that we need to do in here. Screen recorder not capturing everything to the left, but that's okay. We'll go over this in a second, but you can see that we have some private fields. We have our functions inside of here, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty good. This might be important, the fact that we have our private variables, and then we also have a public double distance right here, where we pass in this point 2D, and we take the difference between x and other dot x. So that's pretty much it. Also note, when we create a point 2D, if we don't pass in anything for our constructor, we're going to set our x and y, which is the origin, to be 0, 0. And so this double is basically saying, okay, we have another point coming in, and we are subtracting it from our x and y here. So we have this 0 and 0 here, and we're subtracting this new point. And then we're just returning the difference. So that's for this class. Inside of here is telling us to suppose that a class, which is point2D, so what we have here, point2D, has been defined for storing a two-dimensional point with x and y coordinates both as doubles. And then it just tells us a little bit more information here. We have the class including the following members, which are our functions, which are right here. Notice how it implements comparable point2D, and inside of here, we are going to want to modify the class to be comparable, and we're going to add an appropriate compare to method. So public void compare to, and our points should be compared relative to their distance from the origin. So if we have points closer to the origin, considered less than points farther away from it. So I believe we should be returning a negative value if it is less than 0, which is our origin. You can think of it as, if it's less, it's obviously a negative. If it's greater, we're going to return a positive. The distance between the 2 points is defined as the square root, and some squares, this is given to us right here with our math.square root. So how are we going to do this? Well, first off, we don't need to do this. We only need to take one point, right? Point 2D. And we'll call this point, simple point. And inside of here, we want to get our origin, right? So this is like origin creation. We'll do point 2D. So we're making a new point here. We're going to call it origin. And we're going to set it equal to a new point 2D. Now, we're not going to pass in anything, because remember, if we don't pass in anything, it's going to automatically set our x and y values to be 0 and 0. It's a smart way to use the default constructor. Now, what we're going to do is compare. So inside of our comparison, we just want to compare the distance of what we have in our current class. So we'll use this dot distance, and we'll pass in our current origin. And that's going to be the distance that this method is. Yeah, remember, this method is going to be in this class. We're implementing it inside of here. That's why it says like your code goes here, code goes here. It's going to be implemented in this class. So what we're going to want to do is make a new double, because the return type for distance is double, and we're comparing distances. We're going to call it compare, and we're going to set it equal to this dot distance, and we're going to pass in our origin. Notice how it's very similar to what we have right here. We have our origin minus our other. So we have this dot distance, my origin minus, we'll have our point dot distance. So we're doing the method for this one, and then inside of here we are going to pass in our origin as well. So those are just the way we're going to compare the two different points, and then we want to see if we are returning something less than 0, greater than 0, or equal to 0. So if our compare is less than 0, we are going to want to return a -1. Otherwise, we are going to, oops, let me make sure we get a semicolon there. Otherwise, we want to see if our compare is greater than 0. If it is, we're going to just return a 1. Otherwise, we're going to assume that they're equal, and we can return a 0. Let's press submit, and since we're actually returning, let's change this from a void to an int type. Submit this. Not sure. Oh, there we go. Pass 4 out of 4 tests. And you can see that's the expected. True, true, 0, 0, expected, everything passes. So that's how we would look at this one for here. I don't really like the instructions for this. It's really confusing, and I don't like how this is in the chapter 10, unless it's in the book, which I haven't looked over, but it seems to be less array list, more class stuff.